You might get this with Hydra, definitely not with electric. Hey guys, I'm Nate. Welcome back to the channel. All right, so today we're going to be talking about Dodge's mythical vehicles. So what do I mean by that? Well, around the same time of year, I'm sure you can guess what time of year that is. There's always a rumor about some new Dodge vehicle that's coming out. It's not a rumor, really, more than a prank. The last big one was the Ghoul. It's going to be a 1,000 horsepower Dodge Charger to ride this thing out. That was, you know, everyone's like, oh yeah, I guess it could be. You have the elephant crate motor, got a chassis, could fit it in together. Sure, they could release a 1,000 horsepower Charger. Well, that was obviously an April Fool's joke that never materialized, or could it? Well, with the Ghoul, I think the problem you'd have if you tried to use the elephant crate motor is its emissions, right? That's why it's a crate motor. So they would have significant work to do to make that pass the EPA, especially given a time where they're axing cars like the Durango, because exactly the same problem, the EPA and the Hellcat too. So trying to stuff a 1,000 horsepower elephant motor into a Charger and release it and get past the EPA and all of that, I think that's very unlikely. Now, I did read about a plausible theory, which was, well, what if they didn't just stuff the elephant motor? What if they took the Hellcat red-eye motor that produces 808 horsepower now, or 840 in Demon, but let's say pump gas 808 on the super stock trim, and what if they just used electric motors to supplement the horsepower? Electric motors up front, you end up with an all-wheel drive, really only need a couple of hundred horsepower up there, and you could probably make 1,000 horsepower easy, plus have better launches. Yeah, plausible. Do I think Dodge is going to go that route? No. Why is that? Because it would require a ton of R&D on an engine that they're trying to phase out. Even if you supplement it with a couple hundred or 300 horsepower, you're still going to be dealing with the EPA or mileage or emissions issues that you're dealing with the Hellcat. So I think that's very unlikely. I think Dodge just, you know, is probably looking at electrification as the new route. Well, what was the latest rumor or prank? The Hydra, right? So that's what everyone's talking about now, the Dodge Hydra. Well, what is this going to be? Well, instead of going electrification in 2023 or 2024, when the new models are going to come out, well, what if they just went hydrogen, right? And now I think this is pretty interesting to think about, because what if they just released an 800 horsepower, whatever horsepower they have now, 808, and just made it hydrogen powered? That's kind of believable, right? I don't think Dodge is going to go down this route, but it's an interesting thing to think about. So Toyota did the Mirai, right? The Toyota Mirai, which is essentially like a Corolla that ran off hydrogen. There's really no infrastructure for hydrogen refueling, but that's what they did. They released the Mirai, and it was, you know, whatever, an experiment. So what if Dodge did that, but you actually did have hydrogen infrastructure, and you could get a car like this, same feel, same engine, it would be a combustion engine that would just run on hydrogen gas instead of gasoline. Well, that could be really interesting, because essentially you would have a car that would look, feel, drive very similar to what you have today, and the only emission really would be water vapor. So why don't they do that? Well, I think there's a lot of blockers to that. There's a company that I read about that's out in Seattle. I don't know if they're still active, but they had invented a device that you could bolt onto a semi-truck. So it was basically intended to run on a diesel engine, and you could basically just, you know, take water, make hydrogen out of it, and then you'd run the car, or you'd run that truck or diesel engine on hydrogen. I think it's an interesting application. Now, besides the fact that, you know, hydrogen is still very inefficient to create, solves the whole emission problem, it just creates the need to further enhance or move that technology forward to a point where we're pretty comfortable making it without requiring too much energy going into it. But you could make hydrogen, you could use clean energy, clean electrolysis. There's a number of things that you could do. But I guess for better or worse, they've decided electrification is the way that we're going to go. I suppose it is a more efficient storage medium than hydrogen, but you're not going to get the same feel, and you're going to have to replace your 100% your car, right? You might get this with hydrogen, definitely not with electric. So I can't just take this and electrify it. I'm sure maybe in like 20, 30 years or something, they'll have some kits you could just put some hub motors on and call it a day. But that's a big swap. Now, if you just had a device like those guys made, that you could basically just convert your car to run on hydrogen instead of gasoline, the internal combustion mechanics, all of that still remain intact. Well, that makes for a relatively easier retrofit kit. that could probably be pretty cheap in some time. I don't know, that's just my thinking. Maybe I'm simplifying the science behind it too much. If you guys have any opinions on that, or you know more than me, please feel free to post some stuff in the comments. But I thought it was interesting when I saw the Dodge Hydra, and you know, so it's CarBuzz, right? That always comes out with these pranks. But I thought it was interesting that they had 800 horsepower hydrogen powered Dodge. That's going to be what Dodge is going to release next. That's going to be the next Hellcat. Yeah, it's really cool to think about that. I think that would be really awesome if they did it. I doubt it's going to happen. All right, guys, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this one. Check out these next videos, and I'll see you there. Thanks. Bye.